to welcome strangers with your next door neighbour. Once you got to reach out to them. Some of you have reached out to people over the years in all kinds of ways, to strangers. Some of you have invited people into your home. I actually sat down this and I was thinking about Diane and myself. And over the years, we've actually had a lot of different people in our home. The first time I just realised the first time we ever did this was when we were in Morrinsville. We had a guy in the church who sponsored an extended family who were Vietnamese refugees. Remember back in the 70s and 80s? There was all the Vietnamese refugees came into New Zealand. And this guy sponsored this extended family, and they came to live in Morrinsville. And one of the girls in this group was engaged to one of the boys. So she came and lived with us. Now, the guy might as well have come and lived with us as well. He wanted to see his girlfriend, of course, so he virtually lived with us the whole time as well, you know. The first couple I ever married as a pastor was this Vietnamese couple. And the church put on a huge big afternoon tea for them for their wedding breakfast, as it were. Great celebration for this young couple. They both became Christians in the church. They now live in LA in America, but they're very committed Christians in the church in LA. And it's been lovely to see how they've grown over the years to become followers of Jesus because the church embraced this extended family. One of the other couples, we met again back at the Centenary just, 3 weekends ago. They've been in the church for 30-something years, and they become believers there, and they're still part of the church in Morrinsville. And we had another couple in the church who had fostered a girl who'd been in just countless foster homes over her life, one after another, after another, after another. And this young couple who were fostering her in the church actually got into personal difficulties, so the girl was going to have to be moved on again, so we actually brought her into our family. And so she stayed with us for about a couple of years, had a lot of kind of issues in her life, struggled. But in the end, she really wanted to go on for God. She married a guy in the church and is still going on for God today. And, you know, it's people like that you look back on and you think, actually, you've had an influence on somebody. And when we were at Glenfield and also when we were at Nelson, we had a lot of Asian students who came to live with us as homestays. We had a Malaysian Chinese girl on the North Shore. She was with us for over 3 years, and she also became part of our family, come to know Jesus, and she now worships in the city. She actually came and visited here a few weeks ago, came out to have lunch with us one day and came to the church because she wanted to hear me preach again. A lovely person who's really come to know Jesus. And we had in Nelson, one of the homestays we had was a Japanese student who she became a Christian in Nelson, not through us but through somebody else, but she became part of our family. And she was just a delightful person who she just loved evangelizing. Anybody she would see, she'd go and talk to them about Jesus. You know, it was almost embarrassing. You walk down the street, she'd be off wandering around talking to people about the Lord. You know, she just lovely kind of person. Nobody ever took offence at her. And she went back to Japan. She actually became a children's worker in one of the churches in Japan. You know, it's amazing how you kind of touch people's lives as you go along, as you welcome people into your home and hospitality. Some of you people have been great hospitality people over the years because you've reached out and you've invited people to come in for a meal and been part of your home. Those acts of kindness can really touch people's lives and people's hearts in great ways. And one of the things that Di and I have discovered over the years that a lot of Asian students or Asian immigrants especially, you know, they've never been invited into a Kiwi's home. Never been invited. And they just love it when a Kiwi invites them into their home. And those kind of acts are kind of it's like a kind of a real bridge all of a sudden that you've built with those people because you've reached out and welcomed them into your home. And some of you have had opportunity to do that, and more of you could have opportunity of doing that as well. Strangers to New Zealand are often very open to new experiences and very open, actually, to learning about Christianity. You know, the fastest segment of almost the only segment of the church in New Zealand that's growing are the churches for new immigrants. You know, the number of Chinese, for example, who've become Christians in New Zealand is amazing. Because most of them, when they come to New Zealand, are not Christian. But when they come to New Zealand, a lot of them think, well, New Zealand's a Christian country, we better kind of find out what this Christianity is. And a lot of them have become Christians in New Zealand. And it's because, you know, they've come to this country, people welcome them, and they're just very open to finding out about the Lord and having new experiences. So you can make a big difference when you invite people into your home and part of your life. Now, it may not be that you have to invite people into your home. You know, Jesus said, I was a stranger. Some of you are in workplace situations where there are people who are different to you or different to the other people in your workplace. What do you do with that? Do you reach out and say to them, welcome, you know, I'm such and such, and you just reach out to them as an act of kindness? Or people in your school, for example. Sometimes at school you have kids from another culture or another race or another country, and they come to the school and they are different. What do you do as a student at the school? Do you reach out and say, hey, hi, welcome you, bring them into your circle? And so God's not always asking us to do the big spiritual things. He's actually asking us to do the very practical things. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. And we're to see these people as if they were Jesus. One of the readings this week that you'll be reading in your devotional book talks about bonding and bridging. You know, we bond with people who are like us. It's kind of easy with people who speak the same language and got the same culture, and you know, there's a sense of you can bond with people relatively easy. But then it talks about bridge building, that there are people who are different from us. You have to build bridges because there are certain barriers that you have to build across in order to connect with those people. Jesus was a bridge builder. He built bridges to people. And the challenge to you and me is that we become bridge builders. We build these bridges to people who are different than we are. And building bridges to people with acts of kindness, that act of kindness in the end can help build a bridge for that person to discovering that God's real for them. Second thing I just want to talk about is, why do we find it so hard sometimes to reach out to strangers? Now, some of you don't find it hard, but some of you do find it hard. Why do we find it hard? In our readings this week, it talks about the Pharisees. And I think that in some Christian circles, some of the teaching that we've received actually gives us the impression that we're actually to keep people at arm's length because they might taint us.